I remember being focused on this shiny thing in my future, and that was called retirement. But I realised I was making the same mistake that I'd made at work and I'd seen other people make, and that was having an away from driver rather than a go-to driver. When working, if I had friends or people who worked for me who said they were looking for another job, I'd ask them some questions to just ascertain their driver. And very quickly, you'd be able to see how they were thinking. That is to say, if they said, I'm looking for another job because my current boss is an ass, or I hate this because I don't enjoy getting up at 6 o'clock every morning, what they are demonstrating are away from drivers. But if they said something like, well, this job isn't giving me what I want because I've always dreamed of being a X or Y or Z, or I've worked hard to think about the things that I really get joy from in life and I'm going to grab that by the horns and go for it, then you'd know they've got a go-to driver. When I was looking at retirement, all I was thinking was, my boss is an ass and I hate this work, away from drivers. And that's why I knew I needed to get laser focus on the 6 things I'm going to be sharing with you in today's video from here, the very, very beautiful city of Murcia. The first of these is to have a real comprehensive financial plan. Not the most exciting, but the most important. That is to say, if you've seen our videos over the last few weeks, you'll see that I've spoken a lot about budgeting. To understand what your budget is today and then project that forward into your retirement, and to think about how much money you feel you're going to need for your retirement, and then plan forward through your retirement and think about the different phases of retirement that you yourself will go through. For me, one additional thing I needed to do there was to get Sarah on board with what I was talking about. We'd had a plan, kind of an outline plan like everybody does, to look at what the state pension age, which in the UK for someone of my age is 67 years old, and kind of slowly work towards that. But what I needed to present to Sarah was, we were going to say 67. Well, I want to retire earlier. I want to retire at the latest 55, but maybe 50. So can we start to plan towards that? And at that time, I wrote a blog post. I set up a blog, and I think I only put one blog post on there, and it was the one that I called, You Are the CEO of Your Life. And that's kind of a problem. And basically, what I was saying in that blog post was, you're in charge of your future. And the problem is, if you have to do something at work, your boss says do X, Y, Z, you do it. Not because you think he's an amazing character, just because you know you might get fired if you don't. Thing is, when you're looking after your own life, you know there's things you've got to do, but you also know if you don't do it, you're not going to get fired. So what do we all do? It's human nature. We don't do anything, do we? We just let it roll on and not do it. And that's why being a CEO of your own life is kind of a problem. So that's the first thing that I needed to sort out. Now, secondly, staying on the financial theme, having a long-term plan for investment. How are you going to invest this money? Are you going to be using stock and bonds? Are you going to be using real estate? You don't know, probably, at the outset. What you need to do, though, is educate yourself, really understand that question for yourself, and then start doubling down on it. And when I say doubling down, what I mean is make sure you're really funding it. Don't look at what you're funding and say, I'm putting the minimum in, that's all good. Often what you'll find is if you add more money to your fund, your employer also will add money to your fund. And if you're not maxing that out, you're leaving money on the table, both from you, from your employer, and from the government, who will add tax incentives to that money as well. And remember, I made a video about this many years ago called Being Your Own Superhero or something like that. And basically, you don't want to do this. I know you don't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. But I'll tell you who does want you to do this. And that's the future you. So what I would think about whilst adding in money into our savings, and when I say adding in, I wasn't saving 5% or 10%. At times, Sarah and I were saving more than 70% of our income into our retirement funds. And the reason why I did that was because I didn't want to do it, but I knew the future Neil and Sarah would look back at us then and think, they were a bit special. I'm actually proud of myself. And that's a weird thing to say, because when I say I'm proud of myself, I don't think of it as something I did. I think of the old Neil, the Neil from many years ago, who took a difficult decision to save that money when really I wanted that money. I wanted to spend it on other things. There was so much that we wanted that we held back from, so that I can be walking around the city of Murcia in Spain on I think this is a Wednesday morning, watching the city come alive in the morning in early retirement. I'm 55 at the moment, and I retired at the age of 51. Sarah retired at the age of 49, and that's because we took those decisions. This isn't me gloating. This isn't me saying to you, oh, aren't I good? What I'm saying is, isn't the Neil 15, 20 years ago good for taking this seriously? And don't you want that to be you? Don't you want to be, in the future, living your dream? Yours may not be travel like ours, but living your dream in the future and looking back at the old you and saying, you did a bloody good job there. I want that for you. I want that feeling. I don't think many of us get that feeling of real pride in what you did in the past. I really want you to go for it. So to the third one, and that is prioritizing your health. That being your physical health and your mental health. It's critical because I speak personally on this, and that is when I was in my 40s, I'd see people in their late 50s saying things like, oh, my body's starting to fall apart. And I'd just be thinking to myself, yeah, that's you. That's not me, because I feel pretty fit at the moment. You must have been pretty unfit as you were younger. And then I'm getting to my mid-50s and I'm going, oh, my body's falling apart. Every time I wake up in the morning, my back's in pain now. And if you don't really focus in on your health, as you age, all this effort you've put in to get to retirement, you'll realise I can't do the things I really wanted to do. So for me, speaking personally, I would say that my strength is not thinking of my own health. That's Sarah's strength. She's really good at exercising every day. I'm really good of having reasons why I can't exercise every day. Sarah is exercising back in our hotel room at the moment. I couldn't do that. I need to go out and make this video. Always excuses. But there's some balance here, and that is mental health is equally important. And I have to say, since we retired, my mental health has improved no end, because I'm responsible for me. I'm responsible for Sarah. I don't have to think about all that work stuff that I used to carry around in my head every day. Those things are in the past, and that's really released my mental health and released me to think about other things and to come to a place like this and really soak it up and enjoy it. The next one is lifestyle and location planning. That is to say, are you living in the right place in the right way when planning for your retirement? And no, I'm not talking about if you're just about to retire. I'm thinking long before that. If you're in your 20s watching this video, I hope you are. Welcome, by the way, because you are probably making best decision of your life if you're focused in on your retirement at this age. But think then, because people who are older, put this in the comments for those younger people to see it. Remember, when you were younger, everything you thought about was what other people think of you. So we could buy this car or this car. We could buy this house or this house. We could buy this handbag or that handbag, or in my case, this man bag or that man bag. And often you would make a decision based upon what other people think of you. And then you get to an age where you realise no one is thinking of you at all. No one cares what man bag you've got or what car you've got or what house you've got. I actually remember someone I used to work with many years ago, so any of my most recent ex-colleagues watching this, don't wonder who it is that you may know, because it wasn't at that place, it was the place just before that. And I remember someone I worked with there was very interested in the house that I lived in. And that's because she looked down on me. She looked down on the fact that at the time I was living in a 3-bed semi-detached house in a dodgy part of Birmingham. And that did concern me for a little while. And then I realised I didn't give a shit. I didn't care what she thought of me. And I think that came with age. So when I say, are you living in the right place? Are you living in a place, or are you surrounding yourself with things that you've surrounded yourself with because it's things that you want? Or are you surrounding yourself with that stuff because of what other people think of you? If you are in for a rude awakening, because when you get older, you'll realise no one cares, and the people who do care don't matter. So for us, let's speak personally, when we moved from that 3-bed semi, and we were saving for our retirement, so we put some good provision in, we could move house into another area, and we had probably 2 options of the area we could move to. One of them is basically like the Beverly Hills of the north of England. People who know England may well know Alderley Edge. That's where all the footballers live and all that kind of stuff. We could move there because that would certainly impress a lot of people if you said you live in Alderley Edge. But we chose to live in another area which was far from Alderley Edge in more ways than one. And it was actually wonderful. We loved it there. It was fantastic. It's probably the best house we ever owned. And when we were looking for the house, there were many different sizes that we could have looked at, but we went for something that was way, way, way within our capability because we had no one to impress. We had to impress ourselves because we knew what we were planning to do. So we wanted to keep our costs really under control so that we can use our money to work for us. That's what I mean about, are you living in the right place? Have you chosen a town that's more expensive? Is there a cheaper part of the country you can live in, or part of the world, come to that? Speaking of part of the world, geo arbitrage. Anyone interested in us talking about that? That's where you kind of make the world your place to live in. That's what Sarah and I do. We have lived in so many countries over the last 4 years. I've lost count, to be honest. So think about it. What could you do to change things up? Because if you do change things up, you can get money that you're currently wasting to impress other people and use that money to impress that future you that I spoke about in an earlier point. Next is to think about your activities and hobbies. A lot of people struggle when they go into retirement, and I think people struggle even more when they go into early retirement. And that's with their own self-worth, because you move from a situation where you're working, you were important, everybody needed you, you needed to get on calls at all times of the day, people needed your expertise to answer, and then you stop working and no one needs you. Your phone isn't ringing anymore. And that can be a struggle, a real struggle for many people to have to deal with. So think about your activities and your hobbies ahead of time and start to bed that down and think about, in retirement, how you want to actually spend your time. I think that's critical. I'll tell you, for me, how I saw this is actually very different to what it is now, but it was good to have a plan. So probably 20 years out, I'm going to share with you my dream, okay? 20 years from retirement, this is what my dream was for retirement. If you take a 7-day week, I wanted to use 2 days a week to write a novel. I've always harboured this dream of writing a novel. I've started 3. 2 of them I think are brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Crazy stories, they really are. One of them wasn't good. I shelved that. So I started writing them, put a lot of effort into them, and what I dreamed was, when I retire, 2 days a week, I will just sit there and I will write. I will write my novel that I've always dreamed of making. Another 2 days a week, I would be making music. I'm not a musician, but I love music. And what I wanted to do is make electronic music. I wanted to sit there for 2 days a week, coming up with amazing sounds. And I had a dream of writing my own album. How amazing that would feel to actually make your own album. So that's 4 days of the week sorted. And then the 5th day of the week, what I wanted to do was have a bit of a rest, and then have 2 days a week exploring, just wherever we were living or wherever we were at the time, to go out and explore and really see it. And that would be a really well-rounded week for me. 2 days making music, 2 days writing a novel, 1 day resting, and 2 days exploring. Reality is, I'm not writing a novel, but do I have an outlet for my creativity? Well, you're looking at it. That's YouTube. YouTube has been fantastic for me in really giving me a purpose and something that I can come up with the ideas like today's video and really build it out and spend the time writing the ideas behind this. I love doing that. Sarah, less so. That's why you'll see her over on our sister channel, To Go Rome Travels, which is all really about living our dream, not what we did to put the dream together, if that makes sense. So, am I writing a book? No. Am I making electronic music? No. But I'm certainly doing that exploring, and I'm certainly getting that creative outlet that I really wanted for myself. Next is focusing on relationships. Relationships with your partner, of course, but relationships with family and friends. Because again, when you go into retirement, a lot of your friends beforehand will have been work colleagues. And when you drift into retirement, I hear so many times that those work colleagues just disappear into the ether. Everybody leaves on their last day and says, we must get together sometime soon. It never happens. So, for Sarah and I, if I speak personally, what we've done is pretty radical, because we finished work and then we started traveling full time. The problem there is that, you know, the situation that I'm sure you suffer with, where you've got a fantastic friend and you realise that for the last 2 months you've not spoken to them, let alone seen them, and you feel terrible because you're not really nurturing those relationships. So you correct that. Well, we have that on a much grander scale, because we know we're not going to see people, because we're never going to be in the same continent, let alone the same country or town. So that's a challenge. And for us, the onus is on Sarah and I, because we're the ones that have changed our lives, not our friends or family. We're the ones that have disappeared off. They're still living the life that we used to live. So we need to really up our game. And to be honest, this is a constant struggle for us both. I think more so for me. Sarah's really focused on this recently, but I've got some amazing friends, and I don't contact them as much as I should. If you're watching this video, I apologise. And it's because when you're travelling, you're juggling so many different things, and you think, I must call person X, must do that, or must message them. But at the moment, what I've got to do is sort out this credit card issue when it got rejected in that cafe we were in last night, and you've got another problem you're dealing with, which always seems to be the case when you're on the road. Not making excuses, what I'm saying is, these are challenges, they're real challenges. For me and Sarah, we're not doing great at it, and we want to improve on it. So I want you to learn from our mistakes and make life a lot better for yourself in retirement by really building and nurturing those relationships before you retire, whenever that may be. If you want to know the 5 biggest mistakes that people make before they retire, we've got your back. That's going to be in the next video. So head over there and check that out, because one of the mistakes in there we made, and it really did almost do for us. That was a tough one. In the meantime, YouTube thinks you're going to love this video. So we recommend you head over there now, and we'll see you there. Our dreams world travel. What's yours?